Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the Doctor Who episode, The Witch's Familiar. And this is really a nice wrap up to the two-parter we started last time around. And it's interesting that for such a Dalek heavy episode that it's such a character piece. The real interplay between the Doctor and Davros as well as Missy and Clara bouncing off each other are really what's at the heart of this episode. And I kind of tend to think that this episode's title really specifically refers to that relationship between Missy and Clara. As if we ever, as if we needed a reminder, here is why the Master does not have companions. I especially like that bit at the beginning where Missy is sharpening the stick and blah blah blahing at Clara, and she goes basically sort of says like, yeah, if the hunting's bad, I was planning on eating you, and it's easy to read that as just a bit of a joke. Then you remember some of the things that John Sims' Master did, and it's suddenly like, yeah, Missy may not have exactly been joking there. Of course, it does raise the question: why was she making a sharp stick if she had a knife? Um, the knife is the better weapon than the sharp stick. But anyway, again, it's just this goes back to letting Clara and Missy bounce off of each other, and it's fun to sort of see Missy sort of serve as both sort of a teacher and an enemy to Clara at the same time. But in a way, it's not super different than the relationship that Missy has with the Doctor. Worst enemy, best friend simultaneously. And of course, we need this episode. We do need another reminder that Missy has not become good just because she's helping out in this particular situation. Last time around, they had her kill some innocent people, and this time she just basically, for a laugh, tries to get the Doctor to murder Clara. And you can tell that she's just like, oh, come on, come on. This is gonna. When I tell him, when he figures this out, it's gonna be hilarious. This is like she put something in the Doctor's shampoo or something instead of like having him kill one of his friends. But again, this is just so indicative of Missy and the Doctor's relationship. Missy is less about the universe conquering villain than the Doctor's personal troll. Really is kind of what she's turned into. It's like, man, screw you having the entire universe bow down in front of me. I want to screw with the Doctor. I want to just mess with him and make his life suck because he's my friend. And that's an interesting evolution, I suppose, of the character, but not. I mean, it brings the Missy's menace down to a very personal level, but I guess I kind of think of it like if Magneto decided he just wanted to like egg Professor X's house instead of achieve mutant dominance of the world and stuff like that, or did things like used his magnetic powers to fry Professor X's iPad or some nonsense like that. Nothing really huge to say about Clara herself this episode, although she does really hold her own nicely against Missy. She is one of those people who has shown that she's willing to stand up to Missy / the Master, and is rightfully cautious and wary around them, but isn't going to let them have the satisfaction of being terrified. Afraid, yeah, within reason. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to be afraid around a dangerous animal, and Missy is extraordinarily dangerous. I kind of likened her to the way that Perry, the fifth and sixth Doctor's companion, just like yelled at the Master right back in his face when he kidnapped her that one time. Like, yeah, she was scared, but she wasn't going to let this jerk push her around either. So again, I kind of think that that's where they're going with Clara. Of course, the centerpiece of this episode really is the Doctor and his connection with Davros. And I really did love that bit at the beginning with Missy kind of telling a bit of a flashback story with the Doctor, and we sort of see people, obviously like stuntmen or something, dressed like the Fourth Doctor and the First Doctor, um, and that just the sort of situation that really does seem like a very nice nod to the old Doctor Who episodes. This episode also gives us some nice Star Wars shout out, like with the Doctor holding the sonic screwdriver like a lightsaber, and even Davros saying, "Let me look upon you with my own eyes." I mean, how much more Star Wars does it get, right? We also kind of actually do get an explanation for how Missy has been escaping certain doom lately. What with the whole vortex manipulator thing. Like especially that bit at the end where she goes, "Oh, I've just had a brilliant idea." It's like, oh, she's surrounded by machines that want to kill her, and she's got the teleporter that's out of juice. She's gonna steal the Doctor's trick to get out of that situation. Excuse me. But anyway, getting back to the whole thing that's going on with the Doctor and Davros, and I do like that this episode does confirm my suspicion from last time that the Doctor was acting. Like him, like suddenly begging Davros not to kill Clara. That seemed not really seemed like an out of character moment for the Doctor. Not that I don't think he would do it if he genuinely thought that it would help, but this is that he just really over the top with it. And that was the Doctor doing exactly what he knew Davros wanted him to do. And we see this episode. It's all about these two guys trying to manipulate each other, and who can who can outthink the other guy. And the real crux of it all is that Davros says to the Doctor, compassion is your weakness. It's like a cancer that eats you inside. What Davros fails to realize, though, is that lack of compassion is actually his cancer. It's his lack of compassion that has caused him to take those old Daleks and rather than, putting them to rest properly, basically just flushing them down the toilet. And then at the end, the Doctor uses power and they come back, this brown gunk thing coming up, devouring the other Daleks from inside, destroying the city. Not unlike a cancer. Although, if you actually physically look at what cancer looks like, it's surprisingly white. I saw a picture of it one time. That's a little weird. But yeah, the chess match between those two guys this episode really was great. And it was very nice to sort of see that some genuine understanding. I mean, these are two people who've been locking horns with each other for a long time, and like it or not, there are few people in the world who understand each other as well as these two guys do. I mean, they share a genuine laugh when Dr. Davros says to him, "You're not a very good doctor." I don't think either one of them was faking it. In fact, it reminds me of that famous Batman story, The Killing Joke, where the Joker tells a joke that actually makes Batman laugh. Ahem. And of course, Davros does turn out to be faking it all at the end. This is all just another trap. But I do also think that Davros was being genuine when he said that he was happy for the Doctor that the Time Lords had survived, and that people should be able to be with their own people. I mean, Davros wants the Daleks to be successful. He wants them to be powerful. He wants them to be the only species in the universe. He believes that he really was doing his race a favor by sealing them up inside these tanks and turning them into these machines that can feel nothing but hatred. That's what he thought was the right thing to do. He thought he was being a good man in doing that. And of course, this is a nice way to harken back to that question, am I a good man? And also, in this episode, we see another attempt to create hybrids of the Daleks, but this time with Time Lords rather than humans. And it also sort of starts hinting back to an idea that was sort of toyed with quite a bit in the old Doctor Who episodes in the 80s, that there was more to the Doctor's history than what we've led to believe. And specifically back then, they had the idea. There was really some serious hinting that the Doctor was much, much, much older than he had been previously presented to be. It was heavily hinted that he was, in fact, one of the 3 Time Lords who had founded Time Lord Society. Rassilon, Omega, and a Time Lord whose name was lost to history and was simply became known as the Other. Now, of course, this does in some ways contradict all of that, but apparently in the 80s there really genuinely was sort of a plan for how all of this was going to work out. But, this does go back. Why did you really leave Gallifrey? I mean, besides to hide the hand of Omega, if you're familiar with classic Who. Who is the Doctor really? And I have a feeling we're kind of going to go back to that a little bit. It's like, well, if there was more than just the main reason of I don't fit on Gallifrey and I'm bored. Well, maybe the Doctor's running from more than just boredom, huh? Am I a good man? I think we're going to be hearing that question again quite a bit. And let's see here. Anything else that I wanted to talk about? Yeah. Going back to Davros saying that he was happy for the Doctor that the Time Lords were back. Well, again, I believe that Davros is being sincere, and not just because of his understanding of the Doctor, but also, well, hey, if the Time Lords are back, then maybe Davros doesn't need to rip the Doctor apart to get what he wants. Maybe he can just find himself another Time Lord, give the Daleks the regeneration ability that way. Maybe all that sweet technology basically, yeah. I mean, if Gallifrey's out there somewhere, all that awesome technology that belongs to the Time Lords that Davros would love to get his hands on, suddenly that's back on the table. The Daleks destroying the one race that more than any other has caused them trouble over the years. Okay, the game's back on. It's not just deal with the scrub team now. The varsity's back. And then, of course, there's the whole thing at the end where the Doctor chooses to show compassion. And in showing compassion to Davros, he at least makes sure that Davros understands the idea of mercy. And it's that saves Clara at the end. Davros, sadly, was a lost cause. He was someone who, through his own choices, doomed himself to becoming a monster. But just because he chose not to exercise the concept of mercy doesn't mean that he understood it. Not choosing it when he should have, that's Davros' failing. But at least instilling the idea in him, making sure that the concept was understood. That is what allowed the Doctor to save Clara, and kind of offers the idea that maybe there is indeed possibly some hope for the Daleks. Wouldn't that be the ultimate triumph for the Doctor? To somehow take these things, his arch enemies, and in a way find a way to give them other choices, options, hope, the chance to be something better, the chance to be more than the creation of a bitter and angry old man stuck in this one of only 2 chairs on his whole planet. Anyway, that's all I have for you this time, guys. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.